So I wanted to talk today just briefly about Orca. It's one of the places that I like to, it's probably my favorite place to deposit liquidity. And I've been using it for a long time. There are a lot of real reasons why I find it to be the best of all the platforms. It's really secure and safe. It's had a long history of being safe. I love Solana, and the rates, the APRs on Orca are always really good. So I like it for that reason, and I usually promote it for that reason. So I want to take you over to Orca just to make a few points for people who maybe are having trouble on the platform or have questions about the platform, whatever it might be. I started a liquidity. I'm really always have pairs on here, but I kind of pull pairs and move pairs, and like I'm sure most of you do. And so I recently just put a pair. I always, for the most part, let me move to, yeah. So I always have, usually, for the most part, I usually have a pair. One of my pairs is usually Sol USDC. I'm just a big fan of it. The APRs on Orca are really good for that pair. And I usually try to have some volatile pair on here as well. One that I think is doing well, in this case Popcat, so I can earn some bigger fees. You can see I usually put the majority of it in my stable volatile, and then I have just a little bit here and there to ride. And when this is 2,000, this is usually 300 or 400. So that's usually how I like to do it. And something I wanted to mention, just because Shane, Crypto Crazy, if you know him from the group, mentioned something, and I think it's important. Sometimes you get lazy and you start to have these trends or habits as you get older, especially. And a lot of times I'm just moving to these pairs, opening the pair or opening the position, and then just doing 20% on the front and 20% on the back whenever I do my ranges. And so when I create a range, I'll get into this habit of just setting up, and you can see with some of these, of setting up this 20% on each end range. And it works, and usually I don't have to rebalance much. But the problem with this, and as Shane points out, is that if you do this, you'll have to rebalance more typically. So he mentioned looking at support points. If you do any TA, you can look at that and kind of look at the chart and get a sense of where it's going. You can do that. What I sometimes do, which I think is a smart thing to do, I do that sometimes. Other times, if you're not really familiar with reading charts and you aren't comfortable with it, you can do something that I do when I'm not really in the mood to read charts, or if I don't feel like I need to. You can just kind of look at the top price over the last month and a low price over the last month or so. And I usually do that. I'll look at the high price over the last month, and then the low price over the last month, and then I'll make my range somewhere in there. So, and that's essentially reading the chart, to some degree. So if you want to do that, you could do that. You could look at Solana and say, what's the highest price point it's been at in the last month, and what's the lowest price point it's been at the month. And then you can use your ranges that way. You can set your low range to be, the lowest price it's been, and then the high range to be the highest price it's been. I tend to move toward 2020 on both ends because it usually works for me. I'm usually making it a more concentrated, pair by doing that, because I'm getting more fees more often. But if you want to be even more precise, you can do that. You can look at the chart and either look at support points, or, which is essentially pretty similar, support points, or looking at the high and the low over the last period of time. So, well, last month maybe, for example. So those are the options that you have. Either way, I think, for the most part, you'll probably stay in range if the market is pretty stable. If Solana starts to jump really, a lot, or if it starts to kind of lose momentum, you'll see changes and you'll have to rebalance. There's also something that I haven't gotten into yet that I want to get into is, sometimes, people have different reasons and objectives when they get into liquidity pools. And so for some pairs, I sincerely want to hold the coin. And so I'm more concerned about rebalancing. Because, when you rebalance, a lot of times you're your pair gets turned into one of the two, well, always gets turned into one of the two of the coins. So if you have USDC and Solana and the price changes, a lot of times you'll have all USDC. So you have to buy Solana again at a higher price point, and you, in a sense, as a result, you'll incur losses. Sometimes I have pairs where I don't really care about that. I'm not really, concerned with a little bit of impermanent loss. I have a pair like this one, for example, where Popcat, which is essentially a meme coin, I'm more worried about getting fees from this, and so I'm not worried that my Solana gets lost if it does. I'm more worried about just getting fees, and I've gotten $10 in fees in the last 2 days. So if you can do that, and you can just use those for fees, that's one perspective. If your perspective is that or objective is that you want to hold the coin, then I think your requirements are much different. So how you balance and rebalance and what ranges you set really depends on your objective. And we'll talk more and more about this over the next few months. What is your objective? Is your objective to just create a pair and collect fees and just make a profit? If that's the case, we know what the coins you choose, the platforms you choose, the range you choose is very different than if you're choosing a pair where you're hoping to keep, your Solana and not have to rebalance a lot, and where you are concerned with impermanent loss. And so, as I think Shane kind of hinted at, and this is in the comment section of my last video, and he's in the group, and he really, gives us a lot of information about what he does and kind of educates us too. So it's, it's great to have people like that in the group because they're really contributing different perspectives, and that's what I'm hoping to get more of as the group grows. DeFi University is what I'm talking about. But also on the Telegram group and on the channel, he's given us perspectives, and I think that's important because we need to kind of figure out what our objectives are. And the traditional objective is, I want to create this pair, and I don't want to incur any impermanent loss, and I'm hoping to keep my Solana. But a lot of people have different perspectives and different objectives. So we'll talk more and more about that in upcoming weeks in the group. What are your objectives? Is it to keep Solana and to not rebalance much? If you pick Solana USDC, you're not going to have as many fees. You're not going to be collecting as many fees. And so impermanent loss becomes a lot more important. So what are your objectives? And then, how does that dictate which pair you choose? And that'll be the focus of my next video. Are you creating this pair to make a profit and just collect fees? Or are you creating this pair for other objectives, to keep the coin and to avoid impermanent loss, those kinds of things? So look for that in the next video. We'll also be talking about that in the group pretty soon. So if you haven't joined DeFi University yet, it's DeFiUniv.com. There's a place where we can have conversations privately without having to worry about spam and people trying to get you to sell them or send them money. It's a much safer environment. Also, there are articles that we put out every day. There's some courses we're working on. There's some just micro lessons that I'm putting out here and there. There's going to be a weekly live stream pretty soon, and there's already a monthly live stream. So, and we'll do more and more as the group grows. So join now if you can. It's free. If you want to join the $4.95 a month group where you get access to everything, even, sessions with me if you want them. If you get into that now, you'll maintain that price forever. It's going to eventually go up, fairly significantly down the road. So if you can, get in now, you'll keep that $4.95 a month price indefinitely. So let me know what you think of Orca. Let me know what pairs you're in right now. As I said, I'm in Popcat Sol and then USDC Sol, and you can see the fees. You haven't. I just actually claimed the fees, but $10 over 2 days in this Popcat Solana, or I think $6, $7, for only $160 balance. Those are just crazy returns. So I may be putting more into this. When you do meme coins too, you have to realize that you can lose the balance. You can lose a good bit of money if this price moves drastically. So keep that in mind. But we'll start talking more about the objectives because I think it needs to be discussed, and we'll start making that a topic of a topic that I think, is going to become important to people, or already is important to people. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you're on Orca, what platforms you're on, and then, what your objectives are. Do you typically look forward just to get fees and collect fees and run, or are you looking at more long-term objectives? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you want to join DeFi University, it's DeFiUniv.com. I'll have a link in the description. I look forward to seeing you there. Thanks as always for watching the videos, and I will see you in the next one.